Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mental Training Thursdays. I'm Dr. Rachel Walker, and joining me today is Dr. Mac Brown and Chris Thomas. This week's topic to close out Mental Health Awareness Month is self-care for mental health. But first, as we do, we have a question from last week's topic, which was on identity empowerment.
I tried the identity circle activity from last week. It doesn't feel possible that all the identities I value can actually fit. What do I do?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I want to say that I don't think you're alone in that. And I think especially as you are coming into your own as, emerging adults, I think that exploring different identities and prioritizing or sort of playing with what it feels like to have maybe shrink the identity in one area and then prioritize other identities or make room for other identities. So I think first and foremost, I just want to say that you're not alone in that. And I think as we grow as humans, this is a process, right? Like our identities are dynamic over time. It's okay if, you realize that one identity is no longer serving you in a certain context, or, maybe wanting to prioritize a different identity based on different values and how that has changed over time. So I think those are some things to consider. And I also want to acknowledge that having awareness, like you said, in that question of like, I'm realizing that, one identity is taking up a lot of space in the circle, that the awareness piece is the first step.
Yeah, I was thinking about, I think this identity empowerment circle feels similar to when we look at a schedule and a calendar and we're like, okay, I can fit this in here and this in there. And for you all student athletes, like you very much have to do that because you have a lot in your schedule. That same mentality doesn't have to apply when it comes to your identities. It doesn't have to be a perfect fit. It's not going to be static. Like Rachel was saying, it does change and it's dynamic and it shifts over time. So, to that, I would just add that I think it is such a useful tool to have that awareness and to not panic if they all can't fit right now. It might just be that at this given snapshot, this is what it looks like, and that's what it needs to look like. Or maybe at that given snapshot, you're looking at it and it's like, this is what it looks like, and I'd actually like it to be different, and it can be different. So how am I going to adjust those sizes for those different identities fitting into my whole self? And, to make a segue into our topic today about self-care, I think that is kind of a part of what happens when we think about self-care, when we're trying to make sure we're creating space and room for it and that there's enough of it there to take care of the things that we might be needing. And it's about building that awareness that we might actually need something in one of those areas, or that one of those areas is a little bit less than what we would find ideal. So for today's experiential, we wanted to give you all kind of a fun activity as a way to build that awareness. This is just one example. There are plenty of fun, crafty ways that you could do this for yourself, but we thought we would bring back an old favorite. Hopefully this is not, something that no one knows what this is, but the fortune teller, that you can find your own fortune. So Rachel and I are going to show an example of how you can use something playful like this as a means to strategically kind of check in on your own self-care. So Rachel, I have 4 different colors on the top here. We have trying to represent Buff's colors. So we've got gold, we've got black, we've got gray and white to mix it up, round it up. So which color would you like?
Going for gold.
Going for gold. Okay. Haven't done this in many years, but I'm pretty sure you do GOLD. Mm-hmm. Okay. And your number options are 1, 2, 5, and 6.
Lucky number 5.
Lucky number 5. All right, so for that one, we have emotional. So in our Mental Lift Monday, we were talking about there are different areas of self-care that you can attend to. And so emotional can be one of them. So on this little fortune teller, I wrote in the emotional tab. So that's what came up for checking in on this one. So Rachel, when you think about emotional self-care, what comes up for you, or how do you do that?
Well, I think so you mentioned Mental Lift Monday, and I think with the emotional self-care piece, actually asking myself or yourself, am I doing things that emotionally recharge me? That can be a helpful sort of cue to just kind of check in and see where you're at with your emotional self-care and well-being. For me, I like to exercise. That's a really great de-stressor for me. So lately that's been looking like going on a lot of runs. It can be going for walks. I've also, when one of the benefits working from home is when I do have a 5-minute break, I can step outside and just be in nature and listen to birds and our flowers, and not listen to my flowers, but just be with them. And then another thing that I like to do is, and this plays into emotional and physical, the mind-body connection, but when I get a chance, scheduling an acupuncture appointment or a massage, those are really helpful for me emotionally.
Cool. Well, and so strategically, it's great to focus in on a self-care area and then ask yourself that kind of prompt, like, what are the things that help me emotionally? What refuels me? And then look at what am I doing, or what have I done in the past that helps? And is there a way that I could add that in or make that possible for myself this week, so that I'm getting that boost and maintaining my self-care? Because oftentimes I think what happens with self-care is that people will start to focus on it when they're already pretty far down in the hole. And if we take a little bit more of a proactive approach to it, then it's going to be more maintenance and more kind of giving ourselves these little things along the way, rather than feeling like, wow, I need a ladder, I need a lift, I need lots of rope to get out of this hole that I've found myself in. So let's do one more real quick.
Well, before we go there, Mac, I just want to say that actually really resonates with me. I know that we have a tendency to get busy as student athletes, as colleagues, as, just life in general. So one thing that is helpful for me is to actually schedule in, if I'm going, I know massages are helpful for me physically and emotionally, for example. I schedule those. So I'll schedule them 4 weeks out, and I try to go at least once a month. And so for me, I know that's almost something to look forward to, but I also know that that's, to your point, sort of that maintenance piece for my emotional and physical health. So I actually have a massage scheduled for today. And at the end of that appointment, I will schedule out 3 or 4 weeks.
So jealous. Well, would you like to do one more fortune to see what comes up?
Love to.
All right, pick a color.
Black.
Okay. BLACK. We have the same numbers, 1, 2, 5, or 6.
Lucky number 1.
Lucky number 1. Physical. So you were referencing that a little bit before, but what are ways that people can check in with their physical self-care needs? What are things that are important to focus on?
Yeah, I think the question, the prompt there can be, am I getting enough ... So I know for me, for my physical, also mental and emotional well-being is sleep. So I love sleep. I'm a great sleeper, but I also know if I'm stressed or if things aren't working mentally or emotionally, that's really going to affect my sleep. So I think that's a key indicator for me. And so one of the things that helps me with my sleep is making sure I have enough wind down time in between maybe binge watching some TV and having screen time. So I try to step away from those things at least 30 or so minutes before bedtime. An hour's best, but and then the other thing I have been doing recently is in the Calm app, I have been listening to sleep stories. And so those are really helpful in just having your mind focus on something other than maybe if you have a tendency to have your mind race a little bit before you're going to sleep. So that's been really helpful for me. And those are actually researched, like the way that they tell the stories are they're set up in a way that help your mind kind of almost wind down and just focus on sleeping, which has been helpful. Yeah, I would say the other thing is staying hydrated. So drinking lots of water. We know that our bodies need water. So sometimes that's not on point for me. If I'm in back-to-back meetings, I don't always notice the water intake that I am consuming in those meetings. So I try to, keep a water bottle close or just have little strategies of reminders to take sips throughout meetings and throughout the day.
And you just saying reminders, it kind of prompts me to, and thank you for demoing how someone could go through this in their own mind, right? And I think that's where, something like this little fortune teller is a fun kind of way to go about it. It's playful. Whatever kind of reminder helps you check in on those different self-care areas of your life, use that, right? So maybe it is something fun and obvious on your desktop that is like a physical prompt. Maybe it is a Post-it note on your door before you leave. Maybe it's a jar with self-care activities that you can just randomly pull from. Whatever it is, whatever works for you, that's going to help you tune in and do something that's going to help you, use that.
Great. I loved the exercise. Thank you for doing that, Mac. That's what we have for you today. So that's the end of our Mental Health Awareness Month, and we celebrated with self-care, ending on self-care. If you can join us again next week, our final mental training Thursday for this year will be on some key takeaways in mental training as your competitive edge. And so please join us next week if you want some key takeaways. And in the meantime, you can send any questions that you have from this week to Dr. Bob Deal at robert.deal, DIEHL @colorado.edu. And as always, we'll answer a question before we get started on next week's topic. And so with that, we'll close out with a quote. And I really like this quote. It's by L.R. Nost. Taking care of yourself doesn't mean me first. It means me too. Go Buffs.